Hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today is Thursday, October 23rd. I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to give you a preview of sorts on the podcast that's going to be coming out October 28th of 2025. That podcast is with Kym McNicholas. She's the founder and CEO of the Global PAD Association. And what PAD stands for is Peripheral Artery Disease, which leads to amputations. So it goes directly into what we do here at the We're Not Stumped podcast. But what I'll say is this is not regurgitated content. This is all new content. We had recorded the whole podcast and then afterwards got into a very in-depth conversation, as you're going to hear in just a second, about the same topic. So we decided, hey, let's hit record again. And what we do is we sit and talk a little bit more in depth about this disease, how it could be prevented. And if you enjoy this teaser or you know anyone that's going through any kind of disease, any kind of heart disease, artery disease, PAD, peripheral artery disease, you need to listen to the episode that's coming out on Tuesday, October 28th. And in particular, this is just going to start. I'm going to hit go and it's going to get right into it. I was asked by one of the people that were on the podcast with Kym McNicholas what I thought about the information that we had discussed. So let's start with my answer to that question. And I'm wondering how much this could be prevented by the information that you're sharing. And, you know, my podcast is maybe a little bit more, I want to say a little bit more directed, but to a certain extent directed towards the other side of losing a limb. But one of the things I was very excited about today was talking about how we can save a limb. Hearing everything that I heard today, it gives me hope. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm just so impressed with everyone that was associated with you, Kym, and everyone that was on here that was giving me those the messages. I hope that you don't mind that I read them. At first I couldn't see them, to be honest with you, because it's right behind my camera right here, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to include this. So thank you for what you were doing. But my first inclination is it doesn't have to happen. People don't have to be in the limb loss community like me.
No, and one of the things when you mentioned to me, I cringe when I hear that someone says, "Oh, I lost my leg because of a blood clot." There's a lot more to the story, and it's more likely that you might have had a shower of clots down there that may have formed into a larger clot, and the doctor did not know how to treat below the knee. That's typically what we find. And if you would have gotten a second opinion, but sometimes there's an acute situation, and we have had people who have literally just had to have the leg cut off. There's only a certain amount of time that you really have between the time that you present to the emergency room and your foot goes cold, and you need to make sure that you do have a team there that can get you on, the right heparin drip and the thrombolysis, or be able to get in there and do thrombectomy sooner rather than later because tissue is going to start dying. And so if they didn't act quickly, then maybe the amputation was, inevitable. But by the same token, it all comes down to the right doctor, the right emergency room, the right care, the right tools, the right techniques, the right philosophy or a newer philosophy. And patients through a podcast like yours, they can learn that. And anytime if you have a patient is coming on and you kind of get a little bit of the story, I'm more than happy to jump in and maybe you can help, because if a patient like that comes on and they're saying, "Oh, I had a blood clot in my leg and I lost my leg." So the next time a patient goes to the emergency room, "Oh, you have a blood clot. I'm probably going to lose my leg." And they let them take the leg versus
Yes.
asking the questions about, how to prevent that from happening. What are the newer tools and techniques that could help?
Well, I started the podcast. I don't want to keep everyone. I'll just give you like the Reader's Digest version. I had cancer in 2016, and I remember going through and trying to find information about cancer, kind of like people are probably trying to do with what they're going through with PAD and the blood clots and everything. I decided in 2016, though, that, going through the cancer is like, what do I want to do on the other end? Well, I remember going through the cancer, looking at WebMD, as I said, and it was like doom and gloom. I didn't, you start reading this stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah.
So I started the podcast because I wanted people to know there's more to it than what the technical words are sometimes. And I think that's exactly what you're doing here. I mean, like I'm reading all this information and it's like, oh my gosh, people when they come across these articles that I read, I mean, I have my web browser open right now, the articles that you wrote and then your website and everything like that, they're going to think that now they have a chance. And, it's more to it than just what the doctor's saying. I'm educated now. I get to ask questions. It's amazing.
Yeah.
This blew me away. During one particular candid exchange at a healthcare conference, I'm regurgitating what you wrote, but a hospital administrator admitted something that continues to haunt me. Amputations are more profitable, more predictive, and take
Yeah.
less time. I was like, wow.
It takes 10 minutes for an amputation. I mean, you just cut off leg. And it's still, there was an article I saw out there. It's so primitive. They haven't changed amputations in the mode in which they amputate since like the Civil War. But it takes 10 minutes basically and I'm exaggerating, but maybe an hour
No.
to amputate. But sometimes it'll take 5 hours. They've even been in a procedure for 10 hours to where they really just inch their way through the calcium. Now, the thing is that the doctors that are doing the limb salvage are putting their lives at risk. Um a series that was on PBS called Scattered Denial, and it's
Hmm.
online. It's worth watching.
Okay.
And it's all about all of these doctors that are doing these catheterization procedures, and they're ending up with all kinds of tumors and cancer and dying of cancer. And they're really putting their lives in the line for people's legs or for other people's lives. People that are even on this call that will tell you their doctors wanted to give up on them. And
Hmm.
having our support on a weekly basis is so helpful, so encouraging, gives them hope, makes them want to comply with their lifestyle modifications. They want to try, they are trying. And that's all you can ask for is for a patient to be the best partner in the care. But it's got to start with the doctor.
I like how you said that. Have the patient be the best partner in care. I've never
Mhm.
heard that. That's very well said.
And we help them do that.
That's great.
We want to be friends with both. We want to be partners, for both, right? We want to support the doctor by supporting the patient and supporting the patient, with the doctor.
I sat down in a doctor's office, one of my vascular surgeons, the first time I met him, and he came in. He sat down in his little thing next to me. We started talking. I said, "Do you mind if I called someone?" And he looks dead at me and he goes, "Is it Kym?" I
Wow.
said, "Yes." And he goes, "Uh oh, we're in trouble."
Wow. What a story. Wow.
Well, they have a respect for me. The
Uh,
doctors that are doing the right thing for patients, the doctors that are fighting for these patients, they don't mind. They're very quick to make sure, that they mentor me, right? If I'm saying something that's not quite right, they'll let me know, which is great. But they appreciate what I'm doing. They appreciate the questions. I had a doctor that called me and said, "I have never ever had a patient come to me and ask about collateral vessels. I don't think I've ever talked to a patient about collateral vessels. I didn't think I could talk to a patient about collateral vessels, but I had to meet the person that taught my patient about collaterals."
wow.
The
I,
doctors
I
that
don't.
don't like me are the ones that don't treat below the knee, don't want to treat below the knee, prioritize amputations over any sort of limb salvage, and don't want a patient asking them questions. Don't think it's they think it's disrespectful for a patient to ask about their skill set. Those are the ones that don't like me. But I would say the majority of doctors that are out there, which is encouraging now, really do. They do appreciate a well-informed patient and an engaged patient, an empowered patient. And
So I
that's
want
what
to
we
put you on
strive
the spot a little bit. When you hear a story like that, and I know you've heard many, how does that make you feel?
of hearing
Douglas
about.
just said, yeah, hand him the
um
phone.
it doesn't get old. I'm always humbled, by those moments, because with my personality, nothing ever goes to my head. I always look to see how I can improve. I'm always, critiquing myself, going, okay, what could I have done better? And and I'm always thinking about all the people I couldn't save. And how can I save everybody? I want to save everybody. And so, um, whether it's, not a success or a success, I mean, it's still both drive me harder because like with Douglas saying, then like, woo, there's the bar. There's the bar. I have to keep fighting to stay above the bar.
That's
So
awesome.
it's always about that fight, but it's great, having, patients even that are here in the live studio audience, like, Douglas and Alan, and I think we had Marie that was here,
Yeah.
and they're all engaged and they all become family
Yeah.
A lot of these patients they live alone. They don't have their family around them. And so they're here, you know, every single day for the different hangouts that we have, or they have the doctors. They can't get in to see their doctors. Like Douglas can't even get in sometimes to see his doctor. So to be able to have the opportunity to talk to one of our doctors live. For example, we had Todd Berlin, head of vascular surgery over at NYU Langone, who has a podcast who you might want to talk to as well, on Doctor Radio. He has the vascular surgery show. And Douglas was able to ask him a couple questions on there that he wasn't able to ask his doctor. And that to me is so valuable. And the fact that, you know, when we're saving these legs, I mean, that's reward.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, these patients keep me up at night. I care about each and every one. I literally care about each and every one.
I can tell. And I know they can tell.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it.